Welcome to One Brothas Mind, and I am KD Smooth. Today we will question and challenge popular information and views from a B1 perspective, while we expose the real facts you need. We do this to strengthen your logical, critical, and discerning thinking skills. Because in today's world, hard choices are mandatory and they come with consequences. So you need all the information. And at One Brothas Mind, we do this from a B1 Yeshua the Christ followers perspective. Now, if you're not ready, you better get ready with KD Smooth at One Brothas Mind. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's KD Smooth coming back at you with a new report. I pray you all are doing well. Shalom, family. In this evening's report, we are going to chop it up on this issue on your screen. Yeah. Cameras, facial recognition equals outdoor prisons for black people. Yeah. We're going to dig into this issue, family. We're going to dig into this issue. We're actually going to cover this from a article out of the Washington Post. That's what we're going to do. They recently did a story, family, that's titled Eyes on the Poor. Cameras, facial recognition, watch over public housing. So I'm going to share with you some excerpts from this article by Douglas Macmillan. Again, out of the Washington Post is where you can find this information. And then we're going to chop it up in more detail on this issue. Okay? So, before we begin, if you appreciate our content here at One Brothas Mind, please remember to smash the likes, share this report on all your social media with all your peoples, and be sure to be subscribed to One Brothas Mind, where we try to bring you the information and facts you need. Okay, let's begin. First off, family, we've already dug into this whole video surveillance issue on a previous report. Just the new things that are going on to get you guys updated as to basically what they're doing out here in these streets in our neighborhoods, what them police are doing in the cities, the city officials. If you didn't catch that report, it's on your screen. Go to One Brothas Mind, go in the live tab, and you will find this report on your screen where I go into more detail there. You definitely don't want to miss that report. So, just video surveillance in general. Also, I'm probably going to do a report on this whole HOA issue, homeowners associations. For those that don't know, this is basically all they are. They are legalized, unofficial surveillance. That's what they are, and control. Legalized, unofficial surveillance and control on you. Okay, look for that report coming soon. But in this evening's report, again, family, we are going to focus on this issue. Yay. This is what they're doing in many public housing communities across the U.S. What you see on your screen. This is what they're doing. They're putting up video surveillance cameras, which many of them include facial recognition as well. So I want to share with you just a few excerpts from this article from the Washington Post, and then we're going to dig into this issue a bit further. This article in the Washington Post goes on to read that local officials promised the video surveillance would help tamp down a gang war menacing, but residents in the Steubenville public housing soon learned that the cameras were pointed at them. One man was filmed spitting in a hallway. Another woman was recorded removing a cart from a commercial laundry room. Footage in both cases was presented to a judge to help evict the residents in court. After the cameras caught her lending, or a third woman lending her key fob to her apartment to what the apartment authorities deemed as an unauthorized guest. Got to dig into what they mean by unauthorized guest. Melanie Otis, a 52-year-old resident, also was threatened with eviction. Otis, who has vision loss, was allowed to stay after she explained the visitor was a friend bringing her groceries. They tried to evict her because she had someone bringing her groceries, and she gave them the key, basically like, go ahead and put the groceries in the house. They tried to evict her for that. In many public housing facilities across America, local officials are installing new generation of powerful and pervasive surveillance system, imposing an outsized level of security or scrutiny on some of the nation's poorest citizens. Housing agencies have been purchasing the tools, some equipped with facial recognition and others artificial intelligence capabilities, with no guidance or limits to their use. I'm going to repeat that. With no guidance or limits or restrictions to their use. Though the risks are poorly understood and little evidence exists that they make communities safer. Let me pause right there for just a moment, family. A video surveillance system like you see on your screen does not make not one of the residents in this community safer. It does not prevent not one attack, crime, mugging, whatever you want to call it. All it does is record, hopefully, what happened, and hopefully it records well enough to where, whether it's a license plate or in some cases, facial recognition, to be able to identify who the criminal was. But it does not stop any crime, nor prevent, which is the lie that they are telling everybody. They're pushing to the public out here on your lamestream media all day, every day. It's a lie. These video cameras do not make anybody safer. Crimes are still going to happen. How many years, y'all, have we had video recordings going on? Did the video cameras help make Terry Nichols safer? No. He still got deleted. So I know some of y'all listening going, well, they help him catch him and help him arrest him and all that's fine, but did it make the victim or victims safer? Again, the answer to that is no. It does not. Okay? It does not. So with that being said, family, let's go on. In this article, in rural Scott County, Virginia, cameras equipped with facial recognition scan everyone who walks past them, looking for people barred from public housing. You got to understand what that is, what they mean by that. In general, family, if you have either just a felony in general or certain types of felonies, you can be, in our country here in the U.S., legally barred from not only living in public housing, but also visiting, just being in the area. Now think about that. Say your mother, say you're a teenager and you get some sort of conviction, and your mother moves to public housing. In many areas, or most areas, you can't even visit your own mother in this situation because you're on a barred list because of, say, you got a bogus charge or a legit charge for selling the weed or whatever. All right. So now you can't even visit your own mother. Not even, of course, they make it so you can't live there with her, but now you can't even visit in most cases because you're on a barred list. Y'all got to dig in and do more research on public housing and in your city, what convictions and other things put a person on a public housing barred list, so you fully understand. Again, I keep telling y'all, these are outdoor prisons. Okay? I digress. In New Bedford, Massachusetts, software is used to search hours of recordings to find any movement near doorways of residents suspected of violating overnight guest rules. I'm going to read that again. In New Bedford, Massachusetts, software is used to search for hours of recordings to find any movement near doorways of residents suspected of violating overnight guest rules. Yeah, this is public housing supposed to be there to help people, and they have overnight guest rules. Initially, they want to try to control and prevent a resident in public housing from basically having an unregistered or unapproved person living with them and staying month after month after month, that type of thing. That's the initial purpose of overnight guest rules. But as y'all already know, they go far beyond that. Again, as I said, in New Bedford, Massachusetts, software is used to search hours of recordings to find any movement near the doorways of residents suspected of violating overnight guest rules. And in Tiny Rolette, North Dakota public housing officials have installed 107 cameras to watch up to 100 residents. That's almost one camera per, actually it's more than one camera per resident. Okay? Approaching that found New York's Rikers Island jail complex. That's equal to what the Rikers Island has as far as the number of cameras on prisoners. Are y'all listening to the words coming out of my... Yes, this is what they're doing in public housing. And really, I want to say this up front, and I'm going to go into this more here in a minute. It's not just public housing. They're doing these camera systems and facial recognition. Like I said, I showed you my previous report. I got a couple of reports about surveillance. If you don't know, you need to go to One Brothas Mind. Go to the video and live tabs and scroll down. You'll find these reports. Okay? So let's move forward. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has helped, I repeat, has helped facilitate the purchase of cameras through federal crime fighting grants. Ain't that the trickeration they always use, the lie they always use? Oh, we're going to do this. This is our crime fighting measures. So we're going to just give away this money to these various entities so they can beef up their security. That's the lie. Okay? Those grants are meant to keep residents safer, and housing agencies say they do. But the cameras are also being used to generate evidence to punish and evict public housing residents, sometimes for minor violations of housing rules. That's what they're really being used for. To punish and evict public housing residents, many times for minor violations of housing rules. Okay? So, don't miss that, family. The previously unreported practice highlights how efforts to make public housing safer are subjecting many of the 1.6 million Americans who live there, overwhelmingly people of color, that's what they get, that people of color, meaning so-called black people, primarily, to round-the-clock surveillance. If evicted, don't miss this part, former tenants can face difficulties finding housing and employment for the rest of their lives. So if you get evicted, if you get into public housing and you get evicted for any reason, that goes on your record. Just getting evicted from public housing, the same as if you committed a crime. And what if you had a visitor too many times to your house and you got evicted, that's now on your public record, the same as if you committed a crime, and on your credit report, things of that nature. So when you go to try to find housing somewhere else after being evicted, it can prevent you from finding housing somewhere else, as well as employment. Family, y'all better wake up and smell the coffee. Y'all better wake up and say, but let me read that one more time. The previously unreported practice highlights how efforts to make public housing safer are subjecting many of the 1.6 million Americans who live there, overwhelmingly people of color, to round-the-clock surveillance, 24 hours. If evicted, former tenants can face difficulties finding housing and employment for the rest of their lives.
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you.
Yeah, let's go on. In an email, HUD spokeswoman Christina Wilkes said the agency never intended its safety and security grants to be used to punish residents for lease violations. But she added that such usage is not a violation of the grant terms. So, which is it? You see how they play on both sides of the fence? Oh, it's not supposed to be used for that, or wasn't meant to be used for that, but it's not a violation. That's why when they set this up, they purposely left that window open. They could have easily put in the restrictions to make sure that these housing communities could not. It was illegal for them to use the surveillance systems against the residents for evictions and violations. But they did not do that, family. And that was on purpose. Okay? So to be clear, in Alabama, Colorado, and Virginia, they have passed laws limiting the use of facial recognition by law enforcement, recognizing that these tools have been shown to produce false matches, particularly when scanning women and people of color. There it is again. So if you haven't been keeping up with facial recognition software, most of it has an extremely hard time producing correct matches for so-called black people. And in this report, also a lot of ladies. It's just the flaw of the software. So as you see on the screen, this child walking, they could get a match from the facial recognition software to a wanted criminal. And it was just a child walking or some other so-called black person walking on the screen. And law enforcement will be sent out and they'll go try to arrest that person that you see walking on your screen, and it's incorrect. They got the wrong person. It's an incorrect identity or facial recognition match. Happens all the time. But the police don't care. They're going to come out, rough up and beat up innocent people. As y'all see, y'all know they do that all the time. Come to the wrong house, have the wrong identity information, all that. They don't care. They can end up deleting you and just go, oops, my bad, nothing to see here. Move on, let's move on. These tools are not foolproof, and their mistakes can adversely impact public housing residents, said Dominique Bloom, HUD General Deputy Assistant Secretary of Public and Indian Housing. Okay? Public housing authorities say cameras help solve crimes and make communities safer, though few of the agencies contacted by the Washington Post could provide data showing these results because it doesn't exist. Officials in Richmond said their new cameras helped solve 10 of the 14 homicides in public housing last year. Stop right there. They said they helped solve 10 of the 14 homicides. Right? Did the cameras make those 14 people that were deleted safer? No. Again, it helped solve 10 of the 14 homicides. As I said at the very beginning, cameras do not make no one safer in this context of surveilling an apartment community or just a normal community. In this case, it's public housing communities, okay? Or your neighborhood. Doesn't make anybody safer. All cameras do possibly is provide some evidence to help track down and catch the perpetrators. That's it. But it doesn't make you safer. And depending on how the cameras are used beyond that, it can be used against, and most likely will be used against you and your family. Okay? This means public housing residents who are nearly 3 times more likely to be so-called black than other Steubenville residents, census records show, are about 25 times more likely to have their daily lives observed by government-controlled cameras. These places routinely use the cameras to enforce housing rules, such as to investigate tenants who may be letting in unauthorized guests. Well, you got to figure out what that is. And again, one example I gave earlier is people with certain felonies. They'll get on the ban list. In the apartment community, the housing development, they may or may not inform you that your child, your niece or nephew, your uncle or aunt, that somebody's on that ban list and they're just coming to visit you. And when the moment they visit you, they not only get rid of that person, but they actually evict you from your public housing apartment. In addition, some say cameras are being used to punish residents who pose no danger. An eviction notice in 2021 after the Housing Authority in New Bedford, Mass. Used cameras to investigate her over several months. A single mother of 2 had relied on her ex-husband to help take care of their kids while she worked day shift as a bus driver and attended night school to train for a career as a lab technician. The Housing Authority believed her ex was living at the house without contributing rent. Did you catch that? He's watching his own kids at her house while she works and goes to school. When she comes home from school, he leaves. Court records show this, violating a policy that restricts overnight visitors to 21 nights per year. Let me repeat that. The housing community's policy was, it was a violation if you had an overnight visitor or overnight visitors with an S more than 21 nights per year.
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you.
Yeah. Are y'all seeing the level of control they are literally putting people in? This is, again, outdoor prisons in public house. You can only have overnight guests 21, no more than 21 nights in a year. But it's supposed to be your apartment. Let's continue. The Housing Authority used software to place a digital marker next to the resident's front door and told the system to retrieve every moment when motion was detected near the marker. Documents and interviews show when the property manager suspected that the resident's ex was leaving through the back door, the apartment community set up a portable camera in the backyard pointed directly at the back door doing the same thing, checking for motion. Y'all, let me just continue because I won't get through this fast enough. In addition, These systems are used to help catch people living in public housing without paying rent and help identify unregistered guests who have not been vetted for past offenses. I'm going to read that again slowly. These systems are used to help catch people living in public housing without paying rent. Okay, that's fine. I see no problems there. And help identify unregistered guests. Wait a minute. If you're living in public housing, you have to register your guests you got to get them approved. Basically, they run a criminal and a full background check on every guest you're going to have visit your apartment.
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you.
Yeah, that's what they doing. They've been doing that, family. And if you have a visitor to your apartment and you don't pre-register them, they fall under the unregistered guest category. Do you see that? All right. In addition, surveillance cameras typically are installed in public housing without the consent or control of the residents. So you signing up for help and they are not even telling you that the community is under 24-hour video surveillance, or that you would be under 24-hour surveillance and under these other restrictions as in regards to how many overnight guests you can have per year and what guest can visit your apartment, and that you have to provide the personal information of every guest that visits your apartment for them to run a full and complete background check. You're not even told about most of this stuff, right? In Washington, D.C., one woman and her son were arrested in 2018 after trying to stop housing officials from entering her apartment to install a camera power box in her bedroom. In a lawsuit filed against the city, the woman claims the security officer who arrested her said she did not have any rights as a public housing resident and that she could not stop the worker from installing the cameras. Wow. Okay. In addition, camera manufacturers claim that artificial intelligence, AI, has made their devices capable of identifying faces and license plates and spotting people loitering. As a result, residents in a growing number of cities are being watched by computer algorithms programmed to help authorities make split-second decisions about who and what is suspicious. Again, as I said before, this is not just in public housing. I showed you guys one of my previous video reports on surveillance. This is happening most places, especially in most of your downtown or uptown, whatever you call it, city areas, as well as in many communities, especially so-called, say it with me now, so-called black communities. This is what they're doing. Under the lie, it's to help make them safer and help fight crime. It doesn't do any of that. Okay? To continue. Of 41 housing authorities that told the Post they have bought new cameras using a HUD grant in recent years, 11 said their systems were equipped with facial recognition tools. 6 said they plan to use this capability, either to assist police in criminal investigations, to control tenant access to buildings, or to actively search for people banned from their properties. These housing officials use cameras to spot former tenants and guests with some previous violation involving drugs and violence. And again, I have no problem with that. If somebody has an actual violation, a criminal violation, then they should not be allowed back into that community. Okay? HUD installing up to 80 cameras, about one for every 2 public housing residents. Officials in Scott County uploaded photos of all the people they had barred from entering public housing. Such banned lists, which are widely used in public housing, are controversial because authorities often target people who have never been convicted of a crime. Again, that's what I said. They're treating people with community violations. They're treating those violations as crimes, and they're not. If you had too many guests to your public housing apartment and you were evicted for that violation, so-called violation, now your face is on a banned photo list. And you didn't actually break a law. Your visitors, your 22 guests overnight was not a criminal act, but yet you're being treated as one. They would say you can't come back into that public housing community. Whether you got friends or family there or not, you are barred and would be kicked off if found to be there, if not arrested. Okay, for trespassing and other made up crap. Y'all better, hey, okay. I'm trying to hold my peace as best I can, y'all. Since the cameras began to actively look for banned individuals, they have made only one match, according to Sue Smith, executive director for the Scott County Redevelopment and Housing Authority. It correctly identified a man banned from the property because of past domestic violence incident involving a resident. Okay, that part's fine. An incident that did not result in criminal charges. Wait a minute. So you can be banned from the public housing for something that, for a charge, not a conviction, a charge, or how about even just a call to the police. You end up not being convicted for it, found innocent or not guilty, but you're still banned from the public housing. Are y'all paying attention? Again, this article is in the Wall Street Journal. I gave you the information at the beginning. Rewind. You can look this up. I'll try to link this article in the description below if I don't forget. To continue, trusting computer algorithms to determine who or what is suspicious is likely to put marginalized groups, there's their code words again for so-called black people, at greater risk of wrongful arrest. That's what these things are for. A 2019 study of facial recognition systems found that Asian and African American people were up to 100 times more likely to be misidentified than white men. That was out of the Ohio Public Defender. Okay. Earlier this year, surveillance industry researcher IPVM tested a Verkada camera's ability to scan a group of people and identify any matches with a database of faces. About 15% of the matches were wrong when the people were wearing masks or viewed at an angle. The study got up to 85% of the matches wrong. just in general. In a study, or in another instance, a 2022 law prohibited police in Virginia from using facial recognition to track the movements of an identified individual in a public space in real time. But the law only applies to state, local, and campus police. So the Scott Community Housing Authority likely is not in violation. Did you see that triggeration? Basically, what I'm sharing with y'all is they are unofficially deputizing public housing community officials, as well as other just general community officials and police. Wow. Last year, the Verduca study disabled facial recognition capabilities in its cameras in Illinois and Texas, where companies have recently been charged with violating state laws. They were doing it anyway, prohibiting the collection of biometric data without user consent. Y'all better realize how deep this goes. The article further down goes on to say they're arguing it will work as a crime deterrent and a crime solver. No, it does not work as a crime deterrent. Only potentially a crime solver, said an official. So there's no downside. That's how they're looking at it. The single mother that we spoke of earlier in New Bedford, Mass, said her landlord used cameras to systematically scrutinize her life and pressure her to leave. In 2021, the Housing Authority gave her lawyer a thumb drive filled with hours of surveillance videos, scenes of her ex-husband providing parenting and support to their 2 kids. She struck a deal with the Housing Authority to voluntarily leave public housing to avoid having a formal eviction on her record. That was the outcome. They literally criminalized this woman for living her life, minding her own business, making sure her children their children had proper care and safety. They criminalized this woman and evicted her. Deborah Seekins was evicted from her high-rise apartment in New Bedford in 2021 after the Housing Authority said its cameras repeatedly caught her smoking cigarettes too close to the building. Yeah. So family, y'all have to really get up to speed on what they are doing with these surveillance cameras with the facial recognition software on them. And again, it's not just in public housing. I've shared a report. For example, most of y'all seen the video of, unfortunately, our brother Terry Nichols being deleted. That was just in a regular neighborhood community. That was not public housing. And the cameras were there. That's one of the additional points I'm trying to really get you to understand. They are putting these cameras up most everywhere. They're also giving free camera equipment, law enforcement is, and city officials are, to most of your businesses that are located all over the community. And so then they're using the camera recordings from the businesses as their kind of network, their web of video surveillance in your community. You can have a taco store on your neighborhood block or at the corner or whatever. The police or city officials will give that owner video surveillance equipment and pay for them to install it. It'll be free to that owner. Now the owner's going, yeah, I love this. This helps keep my store safe and keep my business safe. It's free, surveillance, video surveillance camera. Okay. But the camera is not watching so much the business, it's watching the neighborhood and everybody who walks by and drives by. Houses that may be in view. Come on now. So, again, family, y'all gotta wake up to what's happening. Now, like I said, they're doing this in mostly so-called black neighborhoods, housing communities of the poor and so-called black people, etc., etc., etc. So really focus in on what they're doing. We've already, with the article, covered what they're doing in the public housing communities. Let's just now look at what they're doing with the camera systems in poor black neighborhoods or just poor neighborhoods. They're economically starving the people in the poor or so-called black neighborhoods. The education and schools are underfunded and trash. The banks, if there are any in that neighborhood, are denying pretty much all loans for residents in that community, whether it be home improvement loans, small business loans, whatever. Most of the businesses with halfway decent paying jobs, wage jobs, they're withdrawing from these same communities. So the residents, the people in these communities, can't go in their own community and find livable wage paying jobs. Again, they're economically starving the community. So the only thing that's there is slave wage paying jobs that you can't afford to live on. And I've got many other reports, and y'all have seen many of y'all on how they've recently, the last couple of years, been raising up the rental rates all over the country. And here in Indiana, in Indianapolis, Indiana, we actually have had the highest increases in rental rates in the nation. Okay? So again, they're economically starving the people in poor and so-called black communities. Right? This economic starvation, that in fact, they've been doing this for decades, actually centuries. Okay? Don't miss that, family. In most of our communities, this is what's been going on for decades, if not centuries. Okay? So when you have that economic starvation happening for decades at least, it ultimately begins to move the people in the community into survival mode. Because they're trying to keep a roof over there, a decent roof over their head, keep decent transportation, clothes, and food on their, they're trying to live, but they're getting paid slave wage jobs, and they theoretically can't afford to live in their own economically starved community already. And they're trying to avoid going into or being forced into public housing. We just covered that. So it puts many people into starvation mode, or survival mode. And in survival mode, people are looking for pretty much any legal or not legal way to get a hustle on, to make and create extra resources and money for them to be able to use to survive. Right? So that's what you see going on with a lot of the videos and whatnot. Most of these people are living in economically starved communities. No opportunity. Almost no hope. So people finally, and as people see what's going on, they study history, they come to understand the wealthy, the rich and wealthy, they've basically stolen everything that they had. Even up to this day. They just legalized their stealing. So eventually, for a lot of people, that just gets them to a point where they mentally shut off or turn off their moral compass and say, well, they stole everything, so, oh well, I'm going to do what the wealthy and rich are doing to survive. I'm going to do the same thing that they're doing. And yeah, I may get caught or whatever, but do I really got much to lose? Yeah, that's the psychological position that they're putting people in here in the U.S. and actually many other places around the world. So in other words, this is the view. This is how they're looking at you. Like this. The rich and the wealthy, the federal and local government officials, the city officials, the corporations, the police, the HOA board members and security, the landlords, the public housing authorities, the medical officials, the education officials in your schools, your employers. They're looking at you, the resident, the tenant, the employee, the patient, the driver. You know, they're looking at you inside this trap, this fish tank that they've forced you into within your own community. And then they've decided to sparingly provide resources, or sparingly, like if you got fish in a tank and you don't feed them, you know, you don't feed them as much every day, and the fish can't find a different food resource, different options, another way here or there, a way to get out of the tank and get access to some other food. The fish can't find a way to create a hustle to come up with some more food or reason. Guess what's going to happen to the fish? They're going to die. Which is exactly what the people in economically starved communities are trying to prevent happening to themselves. In fact, many species of fish, you don't feed them enough and consistently, they actually turn into cannibals and start feeding on each other. Many of y'all that have had fish tanks, y'all know this. That's one of the signs you're not feeding your fish enough or consistently enough. But unlike you, if an owner of a fish tank, you see these type of things going on, you're going to start feeding your fish more and more consistently so that stuff won't happen and your fish are healthy and survive. The federal government and local government officials, the corporations, the police, the HOAs, the landlords, the medical officials, the educational officials, the judicial officials in your city, and on and on and on. They don't say, well, we got to add more opportunity into these starved communities. We got to make sure we bring more family sustaining wage paying jobs into these communities so people can have jobs and be able to afford to live. They don't say none of that. They just sit there and keep this view. Look at them. Point a finger at y'all. Look at them. They're savages. They're criminals. They're this, they're that. Y'all know what they really saying especially for the so-called black people. Look at the ninjas. Look at them out there. This is literally how they view you. While they sit safely in their homes, in their jobs, in their official position offices, chilling. Let this sink in. So, as I've said on many other previous reports, this is the devil and the satanic system that most of us, including so-called black people, this is the system that we're dealing with, that we're stuck fighting against. But my question to you, family, is, but who's watching them? Yeah, exactly. Let's look at that issue. In case you don't know and are unaware, here's a map on your screen that gives you, from at least 2022, the states that are what's called one-party consent states for recording, where you can record someone basically without telling them you're recording them. This goes for everybody. But my focus with this information is to record, for you to know you can record the federal and local government officials, corporation officials, business officials, police, HOA officials, landlords, medical officials, educational officials, and so on and so forth. That's my point with this map. Now you look at the dark blue states. In those states, they've passed laws that says you have to inform, legally, you have to inform anyone else that you're going to record them before you record them, or you're going to be legally held accountable. Here, One Brothas Mind, I say y'all can follow that law if you want to. Let's just put it that way. I'm going to show you some examples. Okay, a couple examples here, but get this information. Definitely research in your state what the recording laws are for just in general. Also for the police. You have to know these laws. Okay? Unfortunately. Because they're watching you everywhere you go, where you live. They're watching and recording you. So we need to be watching and recording them. These fools, all these people's in positions, yeah. Watch and record all of them. Every time you have any type of meeting, official meeting, what have you, record all of them.
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you.
I'm going to say it again. Record. They're recording you. They have you under surveillance. Trust me, most of y'all go to y'all jobs, y'all at work, you might be at your job right now. You're 9 times out of 10, you're being recorded. You're under video surveillance 9 times out of 10 in most jobs. So if they can record you, you have a right to record them. Okay? Most of us, you got your cell phone right there with you. Put it in your pocket, put it in your shirt pocket, whatever. Got your Apple Watch, whatever. Press record. When you have any type of important interactions or official meetings of any kind, anywhere, with anyone, government officials, in the government buildings. Y'all saw the story here recently at the top left. Some media personalities had a recorder going, and it caught these Hispanic officials in California. Remember, I showed you the map just a moment ago. Wait, yeah, you see the blue map? In California, it says you're supposed to notify, you're legally required to notify all parties of a recording before you start recording, right? Top left corner. The media people had a recording that was left recording in a room where these three fools, actually was a fourth one in there with them, were caught making racist statements toward black people. Y'all remember that? Did they know they were being recorded? No. So again, you can follow them laws on this map if you want to. I say here at One Brothas Mind, I don't care where you at in the US or in the world for that matter. If you can record what's going on. In your top right corner, in your official meetings with your employers and business owners and corporations or what have you. Record what's being said. They're recording you in the middle of your screen here. This is a recent story. A student in this classroom, this teacher on your screen was recorded repeatedly using the N-word, right? And they put the teacher on leave and are continuing the investigation, which I told y'all before. The investigations is just, let's try to see if we can find a way to resolve or not charge or punish the official. That's what an investigation is. But anyway, but they actually suspended the student that did the recording. The school did. What? Yes. And it turned around. Most schools today, especially private schools and charter schools and things of that nature, more newer schools, most of them literally have video cameras in every classroom. But the cameras, don't miss this part, are primarily pointed at the students, not the teacher and students. And they definitely don't have cameras in the administration offices where the principal and vice principals and staff are. They're not under surveillance. They got the students under surveillance. Do you see that? Yeah. And again, here's a judge at the bottom right corner on your screen in Louisiana that was caught on video using racial slurs. A judge in a courtroom. This ain't the first one. These are just some examples. When they are recording, when they are under surveillance, oh boy, does a whole lot of truth come out. And of course, most of y'all have seen it. The many people are recording their interactions with the cops. We need more of that. Because a lot of the cops in a lot of states and cities, they're wearing so-called body cameras, but they turn those on and off whenever they see fit. They turn them off basically when they know they're about to do something, in most cases, that's criminal. And then claim and lie and say, oh, it malfunctioned. No, it didn't malfunction. You turned it off. You unplugged it. Whatever. Which is why we have to record our interactions with them when we're dealing with Hasatan in all of these instances and others. Medical authorities, don't miss that. Go to doctor's offices. Doctors are doing stuff to patients that's insane and getting away with it because we're not being recorded. There's no evidence of it. More teachers, and y'all get my point. One more point I want to stress when recording cops it's becoming more and more of a popular thing right now to live stream from your cell phone, where you can live stream to TikTok, YouTube, whatever, right? Family, you need to look into whether or not, if you're already doing live streaming from your cell phone, whether or not you can set your computer and the live stream application you're using to not only live stream what you're streaming from your phone, but also to auto record your live stream and make a file of it on your computer. That way, if you live stream an interaction you have with the cops and it goes bad, whatever you have recorded is not only live streamed to an online app or whatever, whichever one you're using, but you actually have a file that's also recorded on your computer at your home. That way, when you get out the county or you get your first phone call, you know you have this set up. So you know you potentially have evidence that will clear you or get you free or prove what happened. Whoever your attorney you talk to, your family, whatever, whoever you call first, you can tell them, go to my house, go get my computer. Go get it now, immediately. Just in case the cops want to come and with a bogus search warrant and come to your residence and confiscate your computer with that file on it that your live stream software has auto recorded. Are you hearing me, family? And for many people who are not live streaming, don't really understand what I just explained, get with your children, your teenagers, get with your nieces and nephews. Most young people are live streaming in some fashion or another today, and they understand how to do it. It won't be hard for them to show you. And there's apps that some are complicated, but others are very simple and easy to use. That they can show you how to use this, so you can, if you're a 70s or 80s baby, if you're, you're just not up to speed on all this live streaming and videos, capturing and all that, they can help you get you up to speed so you can be operational. Okay? And therefore be able to record and possibly have your computer at home auto record and make a file out of whatever you record with your phone, because you don't want to just live stream. Some of y'all just been live streaming and it uploads to Facebook, YouTube, whatever. Okay. Well, if the cops believe you've recorded and caught some evidence against them, all they got to do is make a quick phone call to those social media entities and bam, your live stream will be removed and deleted. There goes your evidence. But again, if it's auto recorded on your computer, your laptop, what have you, at your home, you got your file. You got record. Even if they delete it off of social media, you still got it. Do you see that? Okay, family, let's move on. Again, here at One Brothas Mind, we don't just complain about stuff that's going on. We try to offer solutions. And this is one. Okay? So let's look into some other potential solutions to this surveillance system in whether it's public housing or just in our neighborhoods in general, family. A lot of people, I want to touch on this one real quick. A lot of people are saying, well, we got to get out of the cities, relocate out of the cities, go out and buy you some land. There's a lot of so-called black people doing this, and that's great. That's wonderful. But I want to remind all of you of this. In the immortal words of Ice Cube, we still behind enemy lines, dog. Even if you buy several acres of land and build you a house, something like this on it, you're still surrounded by them. I don't care how many acres you got. You're still surrounded by potential enemies, if you will. So the point I want to stress with this option, family, is buying you some property is great, but make sure you include in your budget of buying you some land and some property and getting settled there to try to, if you will, give yourself more safety and security outside of the cities. Make sure you include in your budget to install a full 180 degrees perimeter surveillance security system around the property lines of your property. Complete all the edges of this property like you see on your screen from all the way around in a big circle, square, whatever you want to call it. Wherever your property line runs, that's one. You're gonna at the very least need fencing, some sort of fencing. Well, let me go into this first. Before I go into that, many of you have been paying attention to the Maoris in Colorado. They have almost 1,000 acres of land, and they're still being terrorized by their neighbors. And one of the primary reasons why is because they bought their land, they set their farm up on it, but they did not include a 180 degree perimeter security and surveillance system. Now, yeah, they try to add some cameras here and there after the terrorism began, but it was pretty much too late after that. So much had already happened. Plus, the Colorado police, I think it's the Colorado sheriff, if I'm not incorrect, they came out and literally took the cameras that the Maoris had put up on their property. The sheriff came out and took them down and took them away. But they did not take their neighbors' cameras down that's been terrorizing them. Go check out that story of this brother and sister in Colorado, the Maoris. I think it's MALORYS, something like that. Look it up if you are not familiar. They're being terrorized still to this day. The husband was arrested recently, but he's been and charged with some bogus charges, and then he's recently been released. They're going through it. One of the reasons why is because they never had a full 180 degree perimeter surveillance security system on their property before they moved in. Yeah, I know that's a lot of expense. I get it. But if, say this was your property, family, and you got a full system, we're going to get into details about the elements that you're going to need, but you got a full perimeter security surveillance system around this property. When anybody is even just driving outside of your fencing, near your property fencing, so many feet within your fencing, close to your fence, your system would be recording them, video recording them. And then if they violate, they get out their vehicle, come up to your fencing and break your perimeter barrier, you can have alarms going off, that you got no trespassing signs up everywhere. You can have them charged and prosecuted for trespassing. But you got to have that evidence. See, that's what the Maoris didn't have. because they didn't have a full perimeter security surveillance system around their 1,000 acres. I know we shouldn't have to do all of that, family, but again, as Cube said, you still behind enemy lines, dog. You still behind enemy lines. We always, in most cases, will have to do a whole lot extra just to get close to having the same level of security that most other people enjoy and have in the U.S. Okay? So let's dig into the surveillance security perimeter system that I'm speaking of. Some elements that are going to be required. Okay? On your screen. Bear with me, but this is what I came up with. A little illustration. At the bottom, that's your house. Okay? Just go with me. And this circle is your however many acres. 2, 5, 50, 100, 200, 500 acres, whatever you got. You're going to have to install some sort of fencing around your perimeter of your acreage. That's the first line of security. And understand this, family, security is a layered thing. Not one thing will provide you with security. You have to layer it, like the layers of a lasagna or layers of a pizza. You come up with something, okay? So you have to have some fencing. Preferably the larger amount of acreage you have, kind of like the cheaper fencing you're going to have, because it's going to get kind of expensive for that fencing, even cheap fencing, to be around your full perimeter of your property line. In addition to fencing, you're going to have motion detection, motion sensing sensors all around your property line where your fence is, as you see in the top left corner. So if anything breaks that motion barrier, your security system alarm goes off. Hopefully, and we'll talk about this in a moment, you got some floodlights. They turn on for that specific area. So whoever it is, they immediately see and are notified that you're recording them. You see them, you're recording them, whatever they're doing is being captured. Okay? Again, in the middle at the top, you got your camera system. Before you move in, you have all these things before you move in, family. And be clear, your cameras, you cannot install your cameras on your property line fence, because whoever it is whatever neighbor is violating your perimeter, they can just reach over and grab your cameras and break them and take them or whatever. You have to install your cameras so many feet into your property, even if you have to erect some poles just to hold your cameras and your floodlights, whatever the case may be. But they have to be away, going closer toward your house, facing away from your house, facing your fence, so they can record what's going on out on your fence line. And be sure, you have to put these cameras, family, in bulletproof boxes or casings, because that's one of the first other things that your friendly neighbors will do when they see you got cameras up. If they're not in bulletproof casings, they'll just shoot them down. Okay? I also suggest, even if you got some of the cheapest fencing, just as a marker, basically, for your perimeter, your land barrier. I'm trying to say the word here. Your property line. Yeah. Okay. You got some cheap fencing that just basically marks your property line. Well, then you also, the next image there to the right, you can install privacy screening. Basically some screens that make it pretty much impossible to stand outside your fence and look into your property and look into where your house is and whatever you're doing or got going on. You can put 7 foot, 8 foot high screening up, so your friendly neighbors can't just see into your property. Okay? Also, something that's needed to help with your privacy and security. And we've already discussed your floodlights. They should be on. Your camera systems, at the very least, around your property should be broke up into at least 4 zones, north, south, east, and west. And you probably want to break it up in twice as many zones as that or more, depending on the size of your acreage. But you should be able to see every zone around your property, 180 degrees around your property, if this is your solution, going out buying you some land, right? So anybody that breaks your barrier line outside of your property fence, that zone, the floodlight lights up, the camera starts immediate recording. You can even have an audible alarm or a siren, or you can have a video recording. It says, stop right there. You're a trespasser. Whatever you want to put. You can have all that. We must have this stuff, family. If the Maoris had enough money to buy 1,000 acres, they may have bought, let's say maybe 800 or 900 acres, and then use that remaining money to pay for a full 180 surveillance system around their acreage. I bet you they wish they had done that now. And there's a bunch of other stories. There's a lady, I'm not going to get into it, a sister that bought her some land and had bought her a couple of school buses and was reconfiguring one to make that kind of like an RV for her to live in. And then she was fixing up the second one to make that into her own private mobile hair salon. They ran her off her property. They terrorized her and ran her off her property because she didn't have no security perimeter around her property to help secure her, help notify her if somebody was trying to break through her fence or break through her property line, things of that nature. She couldn't see which way they was coming from. In this example on your screen, family, when that alarm goes off, your video cameras kick on, you see the exact zone you literally could see on your TV screen, all the different little windows, it comes up, bam! Zone 4, we got a violation. Who is that? Now, depending on the size of your acreage, you can see them when they hit your fence, right? So now they got several, at least an acre or so, or maybe many acres before they actually reach your house. So in between your fence and your house, whoever's violating your property, trespassing, they have to travel a significant distance to get from your fence to your house. That distance and that alert gives you time to get your power tools. Make sure you got your power tools ready and put them to use. Okay? And speaking of power tools, at this time, we're going to have a word from our unofficial sponsor. Shout out to our brother, Professor Black Truth.
Empowerment. Power tools. There's no telling when something's going to come up, so make sure you carry your power tools at all times. You never know when you're going to need to bring the hammer down, or when you'll have some trash that needs to be blown away, or some obstacle that requires cutting down. Don't get caught empty-handed. Keep your hammer close by. Keep that leaf blower at the ready, and always carry your steel. Power tools. Because no matter what your day job or side hustle may be, there's no excuse for not being ready to put in some work.
All right, family. Do y'all understand what you need if you're thinking of purchasing some land. And I don't care if you're looking at purchasing some land here in the U.S. or somewhere else in the world. You still need to follow the same security perimeter, layered security system. Because family, just in case you don't know, those of us so-called black people, especially those of us that are descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, we're hated all over the world. Okay? So in conclusion, real quick, family, other things that we can do, other solution options. We're going to start at the bottom left corner on your screen. Most of us are out here trying to put this square peg in the round security hole as single people. So-called black family, we got to fix black love, black marriages. We got to fix that. Being single and trying to do this, can it be done? Yes, but we're the most vulnerable. In contrast, if we have a whole family, we got more hands, more eyes that can help secure us. Make sure we got more power tools. Moving across your screen to the far right, you see the small family house. Many of you renters, to avoid housing assistance and the high raising rents and the camera surveillance systems in most neighborhoods, you need to look into seriously buying a single family home for yourself and your family, but only do it on a 15 or 10-year mortgage. Stop trying to buy them $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 houses as your first home and doing 30, 40-year mortgages. That used to be a thing when you had all the car plants and manufacturers open where people would work those jobs for 30, 40 years. You had a consistent job that you could consistently pay the mortgage from and pay it off. Those jobs they don't exist anymore. But in most cases, if you're 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, you pretty sure you're going to be employed for the next 10 to 15 years. Whether it be one job or a couple of few jobs. And so if you can afford to pay rent, you most cases can afford to pay a 10 or 15 mortgage loan on a single family home. Much more affordable home. I got reports on this. While I go into more details, go to One Brothas Mind and review that information. And while you're there, or before you go, hit the like button. Smash the like button if you appreciate our content here at One Brothas Mind. Share this report on all your social media with all your peoples, and be sure to be subscribed to One Brothas Mind, where we try to provide you the information and facts you need. Other things we need to be doing, family. If working a job is not paying you enough, they're paying you slave wages, especially up at the top right corner, develop you a side hustle. Get it at least going part-time, if not, get it going full-time, and stop working that slave wage job anyway. In many cases, you can make more money than you're making on your slave wage job. In addition, learn some independent living skills. Own your gardening, hunting, fishing, raising your own backyard chickens. Everything that you can do on the top left corner that can help secure you. Do you see that, fam? All right. And last but not least, here's the other thing. You must demand cash reparations now for your vote. You don't vote for anyone that hasn't authorized or is authorizing cash reparations. Now, not somebody that's gonna lie to you. Yeah, we're gonna do a study. We're gonna do it. No, none of that. Cut the check now. Studies have been done. Many of y'all have been following the study in California. There's many other states and cities that are doing them. Studies have been done. They didn't do a study to give out reparations to all the other groups that they've already given reparations to. We don't need a study. It just must be lineage based, meaning only to descendants of slaves here in America. Lineage based. Okay? And all of these groups above owe reparations, not just the U.S. government, all of them. Okay? There you have it, family. Y'all let me know what y'all think on this report. Were y'all aware of what they're doing in public housing, or for that matter, in most black communities around the country, so-called black communities, poor communities? If you wasn't, you better get your late pass. So let's chop it up on this one in the comments, family. Let me know what y'all think. And this concludes this broadcast for One Brothas Mind. We thank you for joining us. And as a part of the new Black media, B1 choices are mandatory. And being on code is required. But never fear, Yeshua the Christ is with you always. Shalom.